Luke Michaels is a teenager who is serious about his faith. He knew the love of Jesus at a young age, and now he wants to share that love with others. He begins the day with a prayer, asking the Lord to restore him, to heal him, for he knows the prayer of the godly is strong and effective. And so he awaits patiently.
I would pray every day something like, that God would just use me in a big way, a bigger way than I could imagine. And that he would, take me into the ministry field, and that I'd be able to just, lead people to Christ and help them. And, I didn't know when he would answer this prayer, and I never knew he would answer it like this. On May 29th of 2014, I was at a friend's house and started out just like any other day. And I went on a dirt bike ride. It was actually my first time on one. And it went terribly wrong. The bike lost control and I ended up hitting a tree, and I went down a ravine, and that's when I knew something was really wrong. The next thing I knew, I was lying on the ground and just looking at the sky. All of a sudden, this horrible pain hit me, and it just went through my back, and it felt like every nerve in my body was on fire. I didn't think pain could be that bad. I tried to move in, and I was like, oh, I can't move anything. So I just laid there and just tried to bear the pain. I knew right away what had happened. Since I was little, I was a really active person. I was always moving, always had to be doing something. I was really involved with basketball. My goal was to be as good as I could be in that. That was the best feeling for me, to see my progress and to be able to know that I'm getting better, improving myself every time I'd get into the gym. That always drove me to be so much better. In 7th grade, I joined a youth group at a local church. That kind of just got the ball rolling, got me involved in that whole young ministry thing. I loved it. And as the years went on, I got more and more involved. And in my 16th year, I started speaking there and teaching the kids and just teaching them what I've learned and just everything I knew about faith. I'm paralyzed. I just knew it. I actually ended up needing to be helicoptered off to the nearest hospital, which was like 30 miles away. And next thing I knew, I woke up in ICU at the hospital, and it was just a horrible experience. And I remember the spinal surgeon coming in and saying, do you know what happened to you? And I said, yeah. Like, I just knew I was paralyzed. When he looked at the x-ray of my spine, he said, yeah, it looks like it's gonna be severed. It looks like it's all cut up and just completely messed up. And so he said, we can go in and do surgery, but I can't promise that the outcome will be positive. My body was just really messed up. Despite all my injuries, I didn't believe him. I believe that God is greater. And so he opened me up, and the miracle was my spine wasn't cut or severed at all. There were so many fragments and broken bones, but none of them had actually cut the cord. And so, he put the rods in and did the surgery, and next thing I knew, I was off to the rehabilitation hospital. Someone just created the hashtag #PrayForLuke. And, it just all of a sudden kind of went viral. Thousands of people started hashtagging #PrayForLuke and writing me and messaging me. And there were fundraisers, and, there were news broadcasts, and it went pretty much across the country. I even had people in other countries write me. And everyone just started supporting. Everyone started, trying to be there 24/7, The #PrayForLuke, thing really offered a ton of support for me, and a ton of love, and a ton of just people that were there, whether I knew them well or not, they all were just trying to be there. There's good and there's bad to that, because, sometimes you don't want, all those people being there constantly, but also other times you need it, when you feel alone. Once I got to the rehabilitation hospital, I spent 8 weeks there. One of the first therapists that I actually dealt with when I got at the rehab hospital was, incredibly negative towards my outcome. He wouldn't even, use certain physical therapy techniques on me because, he said it would just be a waste of time. I just felt hopeless certain days. I just felt like just going through the motions, and hoping one day I'd wake up and it'd just be a bad dream. My interaction with God during this time was, it really varied. I would struggle certain days and I would say, where is he? How could he let something like this happen to me? I was going for him and you'd think he would have protected me from that, but certain days I would get really down that someone would be so negative towards my prognosis. But then also other days I would just say, I'm going to use that to prove them wrong. I'm going to use that to show that, no matter what they say, what I believe in God, that's more important to me. My faith in him. That's the only hope I need. I had to learn to put those people, out of my mind and to just believe what I believed. But the other therapists, believed in me from day one, and they pushed me when I would really give up those certain days, they would push me to keep going. They'd be like, tomorrow will be better, just take it one day at a time. Actually, a month out was when the game changed. I was in the hospital and I was just laying there, I was pretty discouraged. And my cousin was there and my family was coming up for the day. And all of a sudden I was just staring at my toes and once again just trying to make a move, just pure willpower, just trying as hard as I can just to make the tiniest little muscle move. And all of a sudden that right toe started to flicker. And all of a sudden they were just like, oh, well, it's just a spasm. And then they came in and I was like, well, I'm gonna try the left one now. And that left one started to flicker. And they were like, oh, it's probably just a spasm. I did the right one again. And I was like, that's not a spasm, that's me. I'll tell you, I'll do the left one now. And I did the left one and, everyone's crying and it changed the game.
There we go. I know it worked again.
I went from being a complete spinal cord injury to an incomplete. That's what changed everyone's opinion, even the doctors and the nurses and the therapists from, almost a hopeless mindset to, wow, this kid was right, there is a connection there. He isn't a complete spinal cord injury. And so I ended up spending 4 more weeks in rehab and, just worked as hard as I could to come home. My resolve today is probably that, no matter what happens, I'm gonna keep fighting. No matter how long it takes me to get to where I wanna be, I'm gonna keep fighting. And I'm not gonna let little things, that get thrown into my path stop me from that journey. I'm gonna keep going. I'm gonna keep going where I think God's leading me. And I'm not gonna let anything on earth stop that. Not a doctor, no therapist, no nurses, nobody that says anything that goes against what I believe God's plan is. I have to say one of the biggest things that this has taught me is how much life is about perspective. So, people don't realize that, in my opinion, perspective, your perspective is like putting on a pair of glasses. It can change everything. So if you start the day out with a negative perspective, that day is going to be seen in a negative light, in a dark light. Whereas if you think of it as positive and you think of it as, I can do this, I will do this, you can do a lot more and you'll be a heck of a lot more positive. The accident affected my plans for, future ministry in a couple different ways. One of them is it kind of limited me to the ways I could, go out and teach or speak, or, I can't necessarily right now go to other countries and, go to Africa, it makes things more difficult. But also it also opens up a whole other door for me, to be able to help people that are going through, painful things, to be able to feel people's pain. I no longer expect him to keep everything perfect because, the truth is he doesn't. One thing I've realized is being part of this fallen world, we're gonna deal with a lot of stuff. Sometimes all you have is God. I'd have to say that to anyone who's dealing with anything, any hardship, whether it's a family issue or a health issue or, whether you just lost someone or whatever it is that, is of this earth and that's gonna hurt. I just have to say that there's never a reason to give up. There's never a reason to lose that hope. And even though you may not always feel like it, it will get better. And you just have to trust and you just have to till the day that it does. And you just gotta trust God.
I hope that you enjoyed this presentation. Thank you for watching.